Hi, Robin with Oxy-Dry, and nice easy job. I've been here in this building. This will be the third time. I've shown a couple of videos of this. I think the first one I did was a unit like this, and then the second one was a bigger one. And the story is that the fellow that manages this building, he actually managed the building that we lived in for a little while. When we first moved to Kelowna, first year we lived in a townhouse, which we did not like, and then we went and moved into, a year later, we moved into an apartment, which was a really nice apartment. And this gentleman, I guess he's a little bit younger than me, he was the manager of that building, and I really enjoyed living. It was a really nice apartment, really well taken care of. He's that kind of a guy. And actually, my wife worked for him cleaning the hallways in two buildings that he had, two for sure. They should vacuum and whatever, and that was good. That helped our income a little bit. At that time, my wife didn't actually answer the phone, whereas now she does. She didn't actually start answering the phone for the business till about 2012, I guess. Before that, I went through an answering service, and they'd direct the calls to me, or I'd collect the calls later in the day, and then I'd phone back. And that worked at the time, although obviously it wasn't the best, because you end up inevitably losing some work if you don't actually directly answer the phone. But at the time it worked. And then what actually ended up happening is they started putting the price up to the point it was just getting ridiculous. They were bought up by a big company out of Vancouver, I think. And when that happened, it was just, it went downhill. And it just got too expensive. Anyway, let's onto this carpet. Just the two rooms. We call this a living room / eating area, because it's pretty small. And then we've got a master bedroom over here. And overall, the carpet is actually in really good shape, actually. This will be a nylon. Not quite sure how old it is, but it is in really good shape. There's a couple of little black spots here and there. Nothing too scary, though. There is a colored stain over here, but it's not very obvious. I'm trying the suspend with the stabilized ClO2 in there, and then I actually boosted it. I put a bit of ammonia on there because I think maybe that'll help. We'll see when we get there. We're not necessarily expecting it will come out, but we'll try that. I want to turn on this light here. That's not it. Well, that's not it. Let's see. It's not that one. You know, I think I had the same problem in the other suite. How the heck do you turn that light on? That is weird. Oh, it must be this one. Ah, there we go. A little delete action. I think that happened last time. Okay. Now I just wetted down the pad. Obviously I'm using a AstroTurf. I think it's be the right option in this case. Seems to be pretty much my go-to most of the time. And I'm going to take that tag off of there. Don't really want to have that spinning around. This is I guess that's my 16 or 17 inch pad driver. Anyway, put that in here with you. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, let's get the scissors out of the way. I keep them right there. Okay, so let's go to work. First thing you do when you do it this way, by the way, is you want to engage the clutch like that. You can hear the motor's turning because the clutch is now engaged. And the reason you want to do that is because if you just plop it on there, which you can do, and you turn on the machine, it'll for a second there, it won't be actually engaged on the clutch, and then it'll actually sends a shock into the system, and there's a little keyway that is intended to, if you were to jam this thing up, hit something really hard or whatever, and it suddenly stops the pad driver while it's spinning, it's meant to snap rather than break the motor shaft itself. So that's why you want to engage the clutch, and that's so when you drop the machine on, which is what I always do. You'll see a lot of people when they're using the rotaries, they'll lay it on its back and put the pad driver on, and that's fine. That's technically the correct way to do it, actually. But there's nothing wrong with doing it this way, as long as you remember to engage the clutch first. And the reason I'm doing that is because I can't lay it on its back when I've got the tank on there, because you'll end up, depending on your tank too, solution would come out. Actually, it'll come out over there. There is a seal there, but it's not really sealed. So anyway, yeah, and this works just fine. I've been doing it this way for 30 years. So just remember to engage the clutch. Sometimes I don't remember, but you do really want to remember that, okay? Just a heads up. I'll make sure I've got my valve in the on position. Oh, no power there. That's interesting. Oh. Why is there no power there? Let's try over here. Oh, because I'm not plugged in. I'm plugged in over here. I wonder if I got a breaker off. Ah, there we go. Okay, now we go to work. Must have a breaker off maybe for some reason. Okay, now away we go. You know, this carpet really cleans well. You can see the transformation instantly. Nylon, there's just nothing like it. You know, it used to be, I was thinking about it a few minutes ago, I was thinking, you know, there was a time when we were cleaning carpets where almost every carpet we cleaned was nylon. Those were the good old days. There was polyester out there, but it's pretty rare you'd find it, actually. And of course, because about 70% or so of the carpet sold at that time, back in the 70s and 80s, at least, would have been nylon. It was the dominant carpet fiber for sure. And then the second most common fiber you run into would be olefin or polypropylene, which is basically the same thing anyway. And then of course you'd sometimes run into wool, although not very often. But nylon, definitely a better fiber. I don't care what they say. I remember going into a carpet store a few years ago, and I had this display up, and it was showing had a couple of carpet samples in this kind of this tray thing, and basically the whole upshot of the thing was they were trying to show that the polyester was, one side was had nylon, the other one had polyester, and they're trying to say that, oh no, the polyester is just as good as the nylon, if not better, which is just a bunch of crap. Of course, they probably had a really low-grade nylon, because there's different grades of nylon, of course. The staple yarn, which is the one that has that almost fuzzing off, is definitely a low-grade carpet, because they had different grades of nylon, and that was the low-grade one. And you compare polyester to one of those, and okay, yeah, that makes sense, because the staple yarn carpets would definitely tend to fray and pack down, and yeah, and of course they had usually a lower heat set, what they called the heat set, which meant that it tended to, the twist would come out a little more easily. But a decent or a good grade nylon will always outperform a polyester. At least that's what I found. But anyway, that's the reality of the situation that we're dealing with now. Is the manufacturers want to sell you the polyester. Cheaper for them to make, they get more money, it doesn't last as long, so they sell you another floor. And they don't care if you buy a carpet or whatever, because they all now sell everything, don't they? Once upon a time, you'd go to a carpet store for carpet, and you went to a flooring store for flooring. But that's not the way it is anymore. So they get you one way or the other. Carpet really doesn't look very soiled, but it definitely will be. And one thing he had mentioned, the manager, was that there was a bit of a funky smell in here. So there's actually the previous job I used some Autoban in my tank, and so this mix in here does have a little bit of Autoban in here. 1 ounce per gallon. I wouldn't put a lot in there. I don't want to overwhelm with an odor, although it smells okay. A lot of people really like it. This is the original odor, I think, which I think is eucalyptus, I guess. Yeah, it smells alright. I generally like to clean with stuff that has no odor, but I do give people an option. For some people, that's actually really critical, because it's more and more common now to find people who have concerns about odors that they're sensitive to, and yeah, you want to be careful, and at least have an option for people that, if you tend to use a product that has an odor, it's a really good idea to have something that has no odor that you can offer as an option if someone says, I don't want to have an odor, odoriferous cleaning. So you can say, you know what, I can give you another choice, and there's different products that'll do that, of course. So I'm only going over this because it doesn't look like it needs it, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I got plenty of time. I'm not in a hurry. Take your time. Do a job above and beyond. Whatever you do, it pays off in spades. Now, one thing that has paid off for us, is that we, I guess it was yesterday, the day before, we've gone over 100 5-star Google reviews now, which is pretty amazing, considering that I've actually not. For a long time, I never even asked for reviews. I do more now than I used to, but that's only really been in the last year. I would always forget. But I think that Google reviews are actually really, really important, because I think particularly when it comes to this type of a service, People want to know what other people think of it, especially if they've never heard of you before. You know, they want to go and look at the reviews and decide for themselves whether they like what they hear from other people, other people's experience. Because we're going into people's homes, and people want to know. It's a pretty big deal, actually, when you think about it. And you want to have create a good impression. Ideally, you want to have a website. It doesn't have to be all that fancy, just as long as it's, straight to the point, gets across the message that you want to give people, and it pays off. And in today's society, this is something that is important if you want to have a decent business, that is. And I guess it depends on the business model you're following. Now, if you were a carpet cleaner watching this video and you're looking for ways to market the SETT method, soil extraction transfer technology, one of the ways that, although we rarely boost the posts that we do, because we don't need to, we do actually have a company that we pay that handles all of our social media kind of stuff, and they create these incredibly wonderful ads for us, although we rarely will use them because I'm so busy I don't really need to, but they still create them as just part of our package. So if you want to see and get some ideas for how we market, go onto the Oxy-Dry Facebook page and you can go back over the history and see some incredible ads, because we don't market price. And if you take a look at the ads, you'll see that there's a look that they have, which is what we've created. Marketing isn't advertising a price. Marketing is educating your customer or potential customer about your service. It's educating them so that when they're ready, they will call you. It's not about price. It's not about, people talk about the call to action thing. We never do that. That is not, in my opinion, in my experience, I don't think that's actually marketing. That's advertising. That's advertising to get someone to instantly respond to your ad. But my thinking, I figured this out a long time ago. If you're trying to get people to respond immediately to something that you're advertising, and you put the value of it down so that it at least appears to be something that, call now or you lose the deal, what you've actually done is you've just shown the people, this potential customer, that the value of your service is variable, and it's and if you're willing to do it for half the price of what you normally would, then you've actually devalued your service. You think about it. Do electricians do that? Do plumbers do that? Most service people won't do that because their service has a value. And the thinking that's happening in carpet cleaning has been going on since the 80s, I would say, has been that in order to generate work, we have to give people a price they can't say no to, and then what we end up doing is increase the volume of work that we do, because in order to do it for the cheaper price, you have to cut corners, and you're ending up providing a lesser grade, lesser quality service. That's not, in my opinion, that is actually, I think, a bad idea. I don't think that's good marketing. I think that's what we'll call bad form. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think that one of the things I've tried to do in my marketing and in the SETT program, as it were, is create, to rebrand. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move away from the bonnet cleaning crowd, as it were, is because it's associated with low quality, poor performance, and the SETT method. I've always wanted to up the what's the word I'm looking for? Up the image. And I know that some of you guys watching this are understanding what I'm saying in this, that we need to present and market the SETT method as a premium service. And that's one of the reasons why I've always said that what we should be doing is including everything on the service, rather than do the sale where you cut certain aspects of the service out so that you can get in at a cheaper price. Include everything. Set yourself apart from the other guys, and if you do that, in most markets, you will find that it will pay off a great benefit for you in the end, I think. But that's my view, and that's my philosophy, and that's what I've been trying to show over the years of doing these videos. So there's something to think about. I know not everybody's going to agree with me, and some are going to go and maybe even have a counter video about this or whatever, but that's the view I have, and that's it. Okay, let's have a look at the pad. Kind of curious to see how this looks. Ooh, that's interesting. That's actually a little bit more soil than I thought it would be, but that's not too bad. That's okay. But the carpet is certainly brightened up nicely. And there, now all I need to do is post vacuum or groom. So, you know what? I'll do that as a separate video, because yeah, it's better to have a bit of a shorter video, I guess. So I'll do that as a separate video. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.